For centuries, people have been searching for the final resting place of Mary, the mother of Jesus Christ. Many theories have been proposed, from her living out her days in Ephesus to her being buried in a secret location. Now, scientists believe they've finally solved this enduring mystery. A team of researchers has discovered what they believe is the tomb of the Virgin Mary. Located in a hidden place, this ancient site has been guarded for centuries. But with new technology and careful investigation, the team was able to uncover the tomb. And what they found inside was truly shocking. So, what did they discover? Join us as we discuss this and more. The real story of Jesus. After the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, many stories about his life began to spread. People passed these stories down by word of mouth for years, and as a result, the details sometimes got a little mixed up. This happens when stories get passed from one person to another over many years. The stories about Jesus Christ's life before and after his crucifixion, which was ordered by the Roman authorities, weren't written down right away. Instead, they were shared through oral tradition, meaning people told them to each other. When the time came for these stories to be written down, they were documented in the Bible. But even then, there were some changes made, and some details might have been lost or altered. This means that when we look at the Bible and the traditions that came before it, we sometimes find different versions of what happened in Jesus Christ's life. One of the areas where we see these different versions is when we talk about the people who were close to Jesus Christ, like his mother, Mary. One of the most debated topics is how Mary, the mother of Jesus Christ, died. There are different beliefs about what really happened to her at the end of her life. Some people believe that she passed away peacefully in her sleep, possibly from old age, surrounded by those who loved her. It's a comforting thought, and for many, it feels like the natural way for such a revered figure to leave this world. However, there are others who believe that Mary might have been martyred, just like some of Jesus Christ's disciples. Martyrdom was common for early Christians who faced persecution for their beliefs. This idea suggests that Mary may have suffered for her faith, just like many of the people closest to her son. And then, there is the belief that Mary did not die at all. Instead, some claim that she was taken up to heaven. This belief, known as the Assumption of Mary, holds that Mary's body and soul were both taken into heaven at the end of her earthly life. This idea is especially prominent in certain branches of Christianity, including the Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox churches. Because of these different beliefs, the question of what really happened to Mary remains open to interpretation, and it is a topic that many Christians continue to reflect on. So, what exactly happened? The discovery of a mysterious tomb. Scientists and archaeologists have been working tirelessly to uncover more clues about the past, especially when it comes to ancient religious figures. In the process, they made an intriguing discovery, a tomb that many believe could be Mary's final resting place. This tomb had been sealed for many, many years, hidden away in a location filled with history and mystery. It's no surprise that its discovery sparked a lot of curiosity and debate. People started to wonder if what they had believed about Mary's life and death was correct after all. Could this tomb really be the place where Mary was buried? Or could it mean something even more remarkable about her fate? So, where exactly was this tomb found? The answer takes us to the Kidron Valley, an ancient and historically significant site in Jerusalem. The Kidron Valley is located just northeast of the old city of Jerusalem, and it's a place that's been important to many religious groups for centuries. This valley is famous for housing the tombs of some pretty notable figures in history. For instance, one of the well-known tombs in the Kidron Valley is the tomb of Absalom. Absalom was the son of King David, a significant figure in the Bible. Then, there's the tomb of Jehoshaphat, who was once the king of Judah. And let's not forget the tomb of Zechariah, a prophet who played an important role in biblical history. These tombs are well known and have been visited by pilgrims and historians alike for many years. But the Kidron Valley isn't just home to these ancient tombs. It's also a place that holds religious and spiritual significance. For example, the Garden of Gethsemane is located there. This is the garden where Jesus Christ is said to have prayed the night before his crucifixion. Close to this sacred garden stands the Church of All Nations, which is another important landmark for Christians. This area has been a meaningful site for centuries, and it continues to attract pilgrims and visitors from all over the world. Among all these historic tombs and religious sites, there is a belief among some local Christians believe that a very special tomb belongs to Mary, the mother of Jesus. The discovery of this particular tomb in the Kidron Valley has only added to the significance of this area, and it has caused some people to start questioning what they thought they knew about Mary's life and death. The empty tomb. With great anticipation, scientists and archaeologists decided to take a closer look at this mysterious tomb. They wanted to investigate it thoroughly and uncover what had been hidden away for so long. The tomb had remained sealed for centuries, holding its secrets within its stone walls. But when it was finally opened, there was an unexpected surprise waiting for them. The tomb was completely empty. No remains, no artifacts, just emptiness. For the archaeologists, this was a bit of a letdown because they had hoped to find something inside that could give them more information. But at the same time, the emptiness of the tomb opened up a whole new possibility. Some people started to think that perhaps Mary didn't just pass away and get buried like other people. Maybe she had been taken up to heaven, similar to other figures from the Bible like Elijah, Enoch, and of course, her son, Jesus Christ. This belief in Mary's assumption into heaven, which many Christians call the Assumption, suddenly seemed more plausible. The empty tomb made people wonder if this ancient tradition could be true after all. It was as if the empty tomb itself became a symbol of something greater, something miraculous. And while no one could say for sure what had happened to Mary, the discovery of this tomb certainly stirred up a lot of new thoughts and questions. Theological perspectives. When we start looking into how Christians view the death of Mary, the mother of Jesus, things can get pretty interesting. It turns out that people have different beliefs depending on where they're coming from. In the West, the Catholic Church has one perspective, while in the East, the Eastern Orthodox Church sees things a little differently. Catholics, for the most part, hold on to the idea that Mary never really died. They see it as kind of similar to what happened to Jesus. Just as Jesus rose from the dead and went to heaven, many Catholics believe Mary was taken to heaven without experiencing death. It's like she skipped over that part. But in the Eastern Church, they have another way of looking at it. Eastern Christians believe Mary did pass away. They say she was buried, but the story doesn't end there. According to their belief, Mary came back to life before she ascended into heaven to be with her son, Jesus. So, even though she experienced death, she didn't stay in the grave for long. One of the big ideas tied to Mary is called the Assumption. This belief is one of the 4 major teachings about her life, and it holds a really special place in the Catholic faith. It became even more official when Pope Pius XII made an announcement on the 1st of November in the year 1950. In a document called the Munificentissimus Deus *, the Pope clarified what the Church believes about Mary's Assumption. This teaching is closely linked to another important idea in Christianity called the Immaculate Conception. This means that Mary, like Jesus, was born without sin. It's considered a pretty central belief, especially in Catholic circles. But here's where things get a bit fuzzy. Even though the Assumption of Mary is celebrated, there's still some uncertainty about whether or not she actually died before going to heaven. Some say yes, others say no. It's one of those mysteries that people have different opinions about. Eastern Orthodox beliefs and traditions. Now, when we move over to the Eastern Orthodox Church, things take a bit of a different turn. The Eastern Orthodox Church doesn't use the word assumption. Instead, they talk about something called the dormition of the Mother of God. Dormition is a word that translates to falling asleep, which is a gentle way of saying that Mary passed away. Even though it's not an official dogma of the Eastern Orthodox Church, the idea of Mary's falling asleep and being taken up into heaven is still really special to them. The Great Schism of 1054 created a major split between the Western and Eastern churches, and their views on Mary are one of the areas where they differ. Even so, the dormition remains an important part of Eastern Christian traditions. And it's celebrated with a lot of respect. Returning to the Munificentissimus Deus *, Pope Pius XII had another goal in mind when he officially declared the teaching on the Assumption. He wanted to help people deepen their Christian faith by looking at Mary's journey to heaven as a source of hope. The idea was that if Mary could be taken up into heaven, believers could see a reflection of their own possible resurrection. It's like saying, if it can happen to Mary, it can happen to me too. This belief was meant to give people more confidence in their own faith and in the promise of life after death. Alternative theories and stories. Over the years, other stories and theories about what happened to Mary have come up. One of the more interesting ones comes from the 7th century. According to this story, one of Jesus' disciples, Thomas, wasn't around when Mary passed away. When he finally arrived at the place where she was supposed to be buried, he discovered that her tomb was empty. All that was left were the clothes she had been buried in. This story has evolved over time, and in some versions, people believe that Mary sent down her belt to Thomas from heaven, almost as if she was giving him proof that she had indeed ascended. It's a fascinating legend, and over the centuries, it has inspired many beautiful paintings and works of art that depict this miraculous event. Whether people see these tales as literal or symbolic, they have become a lasting part of how people understand Mary's life and her connection to the divine. No matter what the story is, Christians have always placed great importance on the Assumption of Mary. Many believe that this awe-inspiring event has been celebrated since the 5th century. There are historical records showing that Emperor Maurice made it an official holiday in the Eastern Roman Empire around the year 600. This means that the event became something deeply rooted in Christian traditions during that time. But where did this story of Mary's Assumption come from? Interestingly, historians have traced the origins of this belief back to ancient stories passed down through oral tradition and old Christian texts that aren't part of today's Bible. These texts and traditions were very important to early Jewish Christians who lived during and after the time of the Apostles. They knew of stories about how Mary's life came to an end. These stories were passed down by word of mouth through generations, like stories shared around a campfire. People believed that these stories, told from person to person, were based on real events, even though they weren't written down in the way we might expect today. When you take a close look at all this information, it becomes pretty clear why many people find the accounts of Mary's Assumption to be persuasive. For some, these stories are even convincing enough to be accepted as truth. Over time, a lot of people have come to embrace this story as part of their faith. However, it's important to understand that scholars point out these accounts have come from many different sources. The details have changed and evolved over the centuries, like a story that keeps getting retold. Even those who believe in the oral tradition surrounding Mary's Assumption will agree that this story has gone through along the process of development shows that what people know and believe today might not be exactly what was believed hundreds of years ago. It's kind of like that game of telephone we played as kids. When the message gets passed along, sometimes the original meaning gets lost or changes along the way. If we try to track down when Christians first started hearing about Mary's Assumption, we find ourselves looking at a specific book called the Liber Requiae Marie Star. This book, which was written sometime between the 2nd and 3rd centuries, is also known as the Book of Mary's Repose Star. It offers one version of Mary's final days, but it's important to keep in mind that modern scholars don't consider this book fully reliable. The story told in this book is quite different from what many Christians believe today. Instead of a clear, consistent narrative, the book is more of a collection of different traditions and ideas that were floating around during that time. So, while it's a historical source, it doesn't necessarily reflect what most Christians came to accept later on. What's really interesting, though, is that despite the existence of books like the Book of Mary's Repose *, some scholars argue that most Christians didn't actually believe in Mary's Assumption until the 5th century. This brings up a curious question: if most people didn't believe in the Assumption back then, how did the story survive at all? Well, one notable exception was a scholar named Epiphanius of Salamis. He lived sometime in the 4th century and became really determined to figure out what happened to Mary. Epiphanius went on a mission to uncover the truth. He scoured historical records, interviewed people, and did everything he could to piece together the story of Mary's final days. But even after all his hard work, Epiphanius couldn't find any definitive answers. In the end, the mystery of Mary's final days remained unsolved, leaving it as one of those enduring puzzles of history. So, when you look at the story of Mary's Assumption, you can see that it's not a simple, straightforward tale. It's a story that has been passed down through generations, evolving along the way. Different sources and traditions have added their own twists, and even today, scholars continue to study it, trying to understand how this belief became part of Christian tradition. Early accounts and conflicting stories further complicate matters. Things get even more puzzling when we realize that the Bible, as we have it today, doesn't actually give any detailed account of Mary's death. Even early Christians, those who were converted in the very first days of Christianity, didn't leave us any solid stories about what happened to Mary at the end of her life. If we look at the work of Epiphanius, who was a bishop and lived in the late 4th century, we find that even when he did his own research, he found different and often conflicting stories about Mary's final days. Back then, there were all kinds of ideas floating around. One of the most interesting ideas that Epiphanius came across was the belief that Mary's final days were somehow similar to what happened to the prophet Elijah. Elijah, according to the Bible, was taken up into heaven without ever dying, which was considered a pretty big deal since most people, of course, experience death as a natural part of life. Some people believed Mary had a similar experience. She didn't die in the usual sense, but was taken up into heaven. Now, there were also other accounts that described Mary's death in a more traditional way, as we mentioned earlier. But this idea of Mary being taken up into heaven without dying was something that really stuck. Over time, this concept kept showing up in writings and became one of the main beliefs surrounding Mary's Assumption. Some of the earliest texts that mention these ideas are *de obitus Domini* and *de transitu Virginis star. These documents were believed to have been written sometime during the 5th century. They played a significant role in keeping the story alive and shaping how people thought about Mary's final days. The emergence of doctrine becomes evident as we move forward through history. Other writers picked up on this story and helped spread the belief in Mary's Assumption. For example, Dionysius the Areopagite and Gregory of Tours were both influential in sharing similar stories that supported the idea of Mary being taken up into heaven. It wasn't long before this belief became more official. In the 6th century, this concept of Mary's Assumption began to be recognized as a formal doctrine within the Christian faith. By the 8th century, it was widely accepted by most Christians. The story had taken on a life of its own, and many people saw it as a central part of their faith. We also start to see variations of the story during this time. One such variation came from John of Damascus, who claimed that Mary had died in the presence of the apostles. But here's where things get even more intriguing. According to him, when the apostles went back to her tomb, her body was gone. This led them to believe that Mary had ascended to heaven. *** modern recognition and controversy ***. Fast forward to the year 1950, something interesting happened. A man named Gilles Bouhouers claimed he saw the Virgin Mary on the first day of May. Feeling this was a big deal, he went straight to the Pope and told him that Mary's Assumption, the belief that she was taken up to heaven, was real. Pope Pius XII had actually been praying for some sort of sign that the Assumption was true. So, when Bouhouers came to him with this message, the Pope took it as the sign he had been asking for. Within 6 months, the Pope made a big announcement. He declared that the Assumption of Mary was now an official part of Christian belief. This meant that Catholics were no longer supposed to just consider it a theory or an idea. It was to be accepted as true. Even though the Pope made this bold declaration, not everyone agreed. Some Catholics still had doubts. Many of them believed that Mary must have died first before she was taken up to heaven. But they also thought that maybe she was brought back to life through a miracle. This way of thinking is called the moralistic interpretation. But that wasn't the only belief out there. There were also Catholics who believed Mary didn't die at all. Instead, they thought she just ascended straight to heaven without experiencing death. This belief is known as the immoralistic interpretation. As time passed, researchers found that a lot of Christian traditions and prayers seemed to support the idea that Mary did die before being assumed into heaven, which aligns with the moralistic interpretation. Catholics now celebrate the Feast of the Assumption every year on the 15th of August. The Eastern Orthodox Church celebrates a similar event, which they call the Dormition of the Mother of God, on the very same day. Different views ***. It's not just Catholics who have different ideas about the Assumption. Protestants also have varied opinions. Some of them are more open to the idea that Mary died and was then assumed into heaven. Others are more skeptical. The same thing happens within the Anglican Church. Some Anglicans are really into the idea of the Assumption, while others don't care much about it at all. For many years, the Assumption wasn't even mentioned in the Anglican Church's official beliefs. But during the 20th century, some Anglo-Catholic groups started celebrating it under different names, and it slowly became more accepted. This brings us to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, where the tomb of Jesus is said to be covered in a layer of marble. What exactly is so special about this place? In October 2016, when a team of scientists got to take a look at what lay underneath this said layer of marble during renovations, the workers were surprised by how much they saw underneath. Not only did they get to study the surface that Jesus was laid to rest on, but they also examined the special spot in the cave where the Romans placed Jesus' body following his execution. Following the discovery of an empty tomb when a group of women went to visit the final resting place of Jesus Christ, researchers found that the stone which Jesus was placed upon in this tomb is stored in a place known as the edicule. In recent times, a woman known as Professor Antonia Meropola led a group of Greek scientists to work on repairing any damage found in the edicule and the tomb within it since 2017. This is an exciting project for these scientists because they get to examine an important place in history that has been hidden away from the world for what seems like an eternity. This is significant because, as the scientists study the tomb, they learn more about what the tomb looked like when it was first put together and how the years brought about changes to its form. Aside from this, they can also study how people came to revere this place over the many centuries, thanks to the use of special techniques and tools that help them keep detailed records of this hallowed place. At the very least, this will help people learn more about the tomb that once hosted the body of their Lord and Savior. With this in mind, it must have been very exciting for the world when Professor Antonia Meropola, the leader of the project, informed the world that they were on the verge of making a breakthrough with their work. Once they made this breakthrough, they were certain that it. Amid many excited Christian faithful, the team worked on pulling this important stone from the walls found in the edicule. After moving this massive marble slab, the team found that there was a stone surface hiding underneath it. Eager to find out and study this exciting new pit, the team got out their special tools to see if they could unlock any of the secrets of the Christian religion that may have been hiding in this place for many decades. 6 different Christian groups share the responsibility of taking care of this important site. The Greek Orthodox Church, the Roman Catholic Church, and the Armenian Orthodox Church are the 3 major groups that make the key decisions regarding the church. They handle the important aspects of its upkeep and management. The other 3 groups, the Coptic Orthodox Church, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, and the Syriac Christian communities, also play a crucial role in the care and administration of the site. All these groups have access to the tomb of Jesus Christ, which is the heart of the church. This means they work together to manage the large number of visitors who come to see this historic and holy site. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which houses the tomb, is maintained with great care and respect. This is similar to the way the Church of Mary's tomb is managed. The building over Mary's tomb has a long history of destruction and reconstruction. The structure that stands today was built by Franciscan friars in the 14th century, and it replaced earlier buildings that had been damaged or destroyed over time. The ancient staircase at a certain point in history, the Greek Orthodox Church took on the role of the main caretaker of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Their representatives are responsible for guiding visitors down a long, ancient staircase that dates back approximately 1,000 years. This staircase is a key feature of the site and provides access to various important areas within the church. During their tours, archaeologists have uncovered 2 small chapels along the way. One chapel is dedicated to Joseph, Mary's husband, and the other is dedicated to Mary's parents. When the team reached Mary's tomb, they discovered several relics and artifacts that date back to the Middle Ages. These findings offer a glimpse into the past and help to connect visitors with the historical significance of the site. Theories of Mary's final resting place. While many people believe that Mary's final resting place is at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, others have different theories about where she might be buried. Some suggest that Mary could be buried in a town named Mary in Turkmenistan. This theory is based on various historical and local accounts. Another theory places her burial site in Nineveh, which is in northern Iraq, near the modern city of Erbil. There are also claims that Mary's tomb might be located near a mosque in Mosul. Further speculation suggests that Mary's final resting place could be in Murree, Pakistan. Each of these theories presents a different perspective on Mary's life and death, and they contribute to the ongoing discussion about her final resting place. The various theories about Mary's final resting place are intriguing and spark much debate. One well-known legend tells the story of Mary traveling to India with the Apostle Thomas after the death of her son. According to this story, Mary died in the town of Mary in Turkmenistan. Thomas was said to be the only apostle who witnessed her ascent to heaven, making him the sole witness to her miraculous departure. When Thomas shared this account with the other apostles, they were initially skeptical. However, they later found only Mary's belt in her tomb, which added to the mystery and intrigue surrounding her final resting place. Despite the uncertainty about where exactly Mary was buried, it is clear that she is a highly revered figure in Christianity. Her life and dedication are deeply respected by Christians around the world. Whether she spent her final days on earth in one of the many proposed locations or whether she ascended to heaven, her significance remains profound. The search for her true resting place continues, and perhaps one day, new discoveries will shed light on this mystery. Until then, Mary's legacy as a devoted and holy figure endures, inspiring faith and reverence among Christians everywhere. What do you think about this? Let us know in the comments section, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more updates. While you're still here, click the video on your screen to see more interesting content like this one.